Martin's Test Shaves. And it's October the 24th. It's a Friday. I want to cover a couple of little subjects which I've been neglecting. I'm no expert. I'm just saying I've neglected a few subjects. One being, look, I'm using a badger brush. It's actually not that bad. But also, to copy the latest video from the Cutthroat Goat, from Josh, I'm going to be using, yes, the Vash from the Cajun Blade. Actually, no, I'm going to use the same because I've got one. I'm going to use the pins, which is the pines of the forest, the flowers of the forest. Flowers of the forest being, again, one from a good friend in Louisiana, from Eric, who is, of course, a master of not just the blade and the stones, he's also a master of making soap. So let's try. This is the slightly older version of La Pins, or the pines. Floret. Depends. This one doesn't have menthol. Anyway, the one that Josh recently did, Magnificent Shave, was with menthol. However, what I was going to touch on today was keeping the camaraderie going. I've been neglectful. I do apologise. I'm not keeping up with all my buddies on the shaving channel. Yeah, anyway, just another word talking of that subject. Again, belated happy birthday to Sean Staplefield, who is 28. I can't even remember being 48, and he's 28. However, be that as it may. Yeah, belated. I did actually send some greetings, but another belated birthday greetings to Sean, who also has an uncanny resemblance to Bluto, as in Popeye the Sailor Man. I've never seen anybody with such a dark stubble. However, here we go. Right, this is, yeah, always a lovely aroma. No, not overpowering, but it is nice. As an old engineer, my sense of smell isn't at its best, but yeah, I would always say anything from Eric is subtle and slightly enigmatic. Anyway, what I was going to have a little rabbit on about today was the difference in hold with some razors, particularly the difference between chevettes, which I have been using quite a lot recently, and proper razors, which I've neglected. Anyway, let's see if that's enough. I think that's probably enough. I don't like heavy, really heavy lathers. I think slick is probably a little bit better for me. Anyway, let's just have a try with the Cajun blades, and I'm going to show you the difference. Right. Now, actually, I quite like small razors, but chevettes are far too small on the tang. I did actually deepen the notches on this one, and as you probably remember if you've seen any of my nonsense, I actually reground this, so it's no longer that bloody awful sandblasted finish, which to me looks atrocious. So let's just try this as a comparison. On this side of my face, it's got a new blade on it. I only shaved with it once. Now I've got to say, although the hold isn't great, the actual blades are superb. The difference is, as I've always stressed, if you shave with a mass manufactured blade, God help us, keep away from Gillette stuff. But anyway, if you do, one of the big problems is during the shave, you'll find this is very, very comfortable, as this is. Post shave, you're very likely to get a bit of irritation. Yeah, can't complain. That's that side of my face, first pass. This is, I don't know, about 2, maybe 3 days of stubble. Adequate is the word I was looking for. It's adequate, but it ain't great. It's about the equivalent of a 6/8, the actual width. But of course, the tiny, tiny little blade protruding is what does the cutting. But the hold, nah, I'm not very convinced that the hold's any good. So let's put this one down and I'll show you a proper razor. Here's a proper razor. and its case. Now this, this is probably the finest razor ever made. This is a Tridor, a Philharmonica Tridor with gold original case. These are absolutely exceptional. I've had 40 shaves off this one without getting even near to the stones. In fact, I think I only stropped it once. Now I have stropped it this morning for the simple reason, guys, that when you're doing the hanging hair test will always do well in the center of the blade and the rear, because that's not really where all the work's done. The work's done more near the front. And this one was just resisting a little bit on the hanging hair. However, after stropping, oh my God. Oh, that is so good. Can you hear that? Now this beautiful Philharmonica Tridor is a slightly heavier grind and a slightly heavier razor than most of the other Philharmonicas, and I love it. This was, of course, a wonderful purchase I made from our beloved Gary up in Nottingham. Gary the Master Barber. Now here's the difference. I would say this is very, very slightly more draggy than a Chevette. The difference is, post-shave, this will be very much more comfortable. However, I'm going to say this probably did need a light strop, but its first pass, I'm being honest, its first pass isn't quite as comfortable as the Chevette. But the Chevette's got a brand new Feather Professional cartridge blade in it, and they can last up to like a dozen shaves if you really want to. But let's now lather up a little bit more and do a couple of more passes before I call it a day. One of the reasons I've been putting off doing any more shave videos is because I've only got a mobile phone, and my internet connection with EE here in the UK is what's the correct expression? Oh yes, bloody awful. So, only 2 days ago, I got a fibre optic cable laid by Home Reach, and I must say, I couldn't believe how techy and wonderful it is. The fibre optic cable is only 3 microns and has to be put into a very special rig so that when it's joined and spliced, it works. I watched the guy doing it because, you know, I'm a bit of a technical person, and the portable little box that he uses costs £10,000 and is wonderful. It's got a built-in microscope so you can actually see the butt end of the fibre coming together under a special shield where it's welded all in the battery-powered box. Isn't that wonderful? What a wonderful world we live in. But we still can't make razors. Not like the old ones. Anyway, that's a modest amount on. I would still say I would prefer, generally, I prefer a synthetic brush like this one. Synthetics lather up so much quicker. Just there, maybe a little bit too soft, but I'm not complaining. Right, let's go back to using this little devil. This is the Feather Professional. I'm going to go against the grain. Which side did I use? Oh, this side here. Let's go against the grain. Yeah. I have to say, it is effortless. Going against the grain is a good test. Is a good way of telling if something's actually cutting well. Yeah, this is absolutely superb. But, and here's the big but, doesn't hold very well. Yeah. I won't be too long because I'm not having to go over my moustache area. It's growing. Yeah, I want to look like a Barbary pirate. Not a Caribbean pirate, because that's down to Sean. Sean's the original pirate of the Caribbean. I've never seen such heavy stubble. Anyway, right, put this one down. That's proven that that is superb against the grain. But for manliness, for hold, you want one of these. This is a true 8/8 heavy. It's not even the deepest possible grind. It is a deep hollow, but there's a few special tricks of the Tridor which not many people know about. One is they're plated. Yes, they are. They're very lightly plated. And the strange thing is, it's actually only visible with the absolutely mint ones. This one has just lost a little bit of its plating, but they actually had a gold wash within the engraving, because the engraving says Tridor Philharmonica Especial para barbas duras, meaning for heavy beards. I haven't got a heavy beard, but let's go against the grain. Let's do a buffing pass. Up and down, up and down. That's a buffing pass. It's so amazing the skin still hides the stubble, as you can hear. So you think and you can feel that you've got a baby bum smooth shave, and in fact there's still stubble under the skin. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, for the uninitiated, you cannot beat the control of a big razor. This is a big razor. I'm just as happy with a smaller blade, 5/8, 4/8, even 3/8, but it's got to have a decent size tang. This has a proper size tang. The only thing I would say is these originally came with a rubber collar. Because I'm a restorer, I'm going to put a new rubber collar on it. You can get moldable rubber now. So if you've got a beautiful Puma, particularly the Puma model 1938, which had the same or very similar rubber collar around the tang, you can actually replace it if you know what you're doing. So anyway, guys, that's about it. I'll probably go for a close-up inspection later. You see how fine you can trim with a big blade. You don't need a tiny blade. But I do wish people that make modern razors, particularly chevettes, would get their act together and give them decent sized tangs. I mean, I'm not the jolly green giant, but I do like something I can actually hold. That is big. Whereas, comparison, that's tiny. Not very nice. Big, tiny. Although it looks like a decent sized blade, of course it's a modern disposable blade, and that's not. Anyway, enough. Yeah, let's just wash some of this gunk off. I think that'll do. I'm going to treat myself, as this is a slightly longer video. I do apologise. Please forgive me. I'm sure there's lots of other things I'm supposed to be saying. So just a little call out to everyone, particularly the cutthroat goat. This is in honour of him, using, as I am, the wonderful Cajun blades stuff. I haven't got any Cajun blade aftershave, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this fella, which is the famous aftershave splash and skin food by Ariana and Evans. Yes, this is the one, the mad bird naked on a dragon. Yeah, let's try a little bit of that. The reason I use this is because after an indifferent quick shave, this is kind. Yeah, absolutely no sting at all. None whatsoever. In fact, I don't even know I've shaved. That's amazing. So Ariana and Evans do make skin food. This is from their Kaizen brand, but I would recommend this highly. The Kaizen soap itself, very unusual. smells of a sweet shop, whereas Eric's smells of the forest and the pines and the flowers of the forest. And that's my cat calling me. Anyway, chaps, thanks so much for watching. I hope this is vaguely interesting. Give it a tick if you like it. See you all soon. Martin's Test Shaves over and out.